we set up this as our first workshop on the proposed budget. We've had it for a while to review. There are copies of the budget, hard copies here in my office. It's one at the library. It's available for download on the website, so it should be out there and available for anyone to look at that has an interest in finding out what's going on. What we first said we would tackle in today's session is the funding for agencies, the big blue notebook. I guess the first thing that we need to acknowledge is that there are really our philosophy for funding agencies in this budget is level funding, but there are a couple of agencies, being the Daily Bread and the Senior Citizens Home Assistance, that did not submit financials. It would be our recommendation that until they submit financials, that you would perhaps appropriate that no checks would be written until they met that test, that they need to meet that minimum sort of requirement before any funding would be given. The third one is a little bit different. It's the Diversity Task Force, which began as a city organization, and I think we would be well served to review the organization and structure of that group. But financially, their resources flow through the city's books. So in terms of their financial data, we have that information. But in terms of their governance and mission and so on, it's something you probably want to examine. With that, I'll
Daily Bread and who?
it's the one that's highlighted, Senior Citizens.
Well, I'm comfortable with your recommendation and the funding that you've allocated here, so I'm good with that.
And this is keeping it at the same level that they were last year?
Yes.
Except for central services?
And central services got moved because it's being funded from the federal block grant funds.
I guess you all noticed the paper saying that the county was going to start discontinuing in the next 2 or 3 years, discontinue giving any of it. Did you see that?
Have they voted on that?
Yeah, they did, for a bunch of them.
What?
It was for a bunch of them that they are talking about reducing them to 25%. Doesn't start this year, starts next year, and I'll tell you, I voted against that, because I don't think that's proper.
Now, Linda, Tony, I'm going to ask you this. Should we look at this as some way of being capped by that? I mean, if we could cap it at, say, $250,000 every year rather than it continue to grow, if we could cap the amount and make sure that everyone that is on it is a 501c3, and that's just so that we know that, you know, that they're legitimate. Pardon?
A couple of years ago, it reduced. We went down.
Yeah.
Well, that may be the case, but I'm just thinking that if we keep it at $250,000 a year, I think that's very, very liberal amount, and I think it's a safe amount. And we're not talking about reducing it; we're just talking about capping it so that we don't have it get out of control. Do you think that's a doable?
What will happen is, council, if you put a cap on the total, you'll have to make some choices down the road about choosing among the groups. But I think that's a policy decision. If that's what you want to do, that's doable.
Well, if you do that, the council has the authority to do that. The next council has the authority to change it or not change it. I guess.
That's correct.
So it's always up to the council is what you're going to do. So it doesn't make any difference.
Well, a quarter would reduce it from what it is now.
Just wasting time.
Pardon?
A quarter would reduce it from what it is now.
Well, I understand that.
By $25,000.
But then there's some of these that there's questions on whether or not they'd be in there. But I'm just thinking that it's a good round figure, it's easy to work with. You're talking about reducing it, what, $6,000? That's provided that all these do.
But you're in fact not really capping it because the council can raise it or lower it at any time.
I understand that.
I'm comfortable with it the way it is.
Well, it's flexible.
Well, what about the Daily Bread and Senior Citizens and the other one? Have you got financials on everybody else? Why?
Larry, talk about what you've got in terms of
Right,
package.
everything is in your the blue book. So we've received that information from all the others, so.
Financials and everything?
The only one that's not a 501c3, if we gave them a year to be there, that would be good. But I think we need.
I'm just wondering why the exempt three are all in, you know, just.
They exempt themselves because they're required to. The 501c3s to produce a financial statement. They're on the internet.
Just better pull them
Well, the
Because
Crockett
you've
Tower-
always, sorry, you've always, you know, David Bread, you know, saying your
Senior citizen.
senior citizens, I mean.
That's
Well, we're
the
talking about
substance.
funding, we just ask them to comply with everyone else and just
Right.
bring us their financial statements and the money will be there, they can get it, they just need to do what's asked of them.
It wouldn't be fair to do to the others what we've done if we didn't do it to all of them.
But you're saying that all of them has applied, and all financials and everything?
Right, and those that are listed all submitted information last year. But for whatever reason, you know, they may have seen it and it got lost in the mail, I don't know. But we have not received from those two organizations. And just a reminder, state law requires them to submit something.
State law requires you to produce a financial statement.
Financial or not, one or the other,
Or what?
or not.
So everybody on here has submitted, is a 501c3 with
Yes.
exclusions? No, I don't, is diversity?
No.
It's
No.
a city.
That would
So
be a
we
city.
need-
It's,
well,
see, it's been run through the
this
city,
month,
so
correct.
that's where Tony was bringing up,
Yeah.
about the makeup of it, so.
Yeah, I think the diversity has been floating around as an internal task force, and then, you know, it started out being budgeted in the Main Street to Crossroads function, then it got moved to mayor and council. It needs some attention in terms of overall governance, what it's supposed to do, how it's going to be managed. But I don't know that it, to say it's 501c3 means it's completely at arm's length. You need to make the decision whether it's going to be a city organization or if it's going to be independent. But in terms of funding, we grouped it here because it had similar functions.
Well, Tony, two things are new this year, in that the $10,000 for the swim team was floating around too.
That's correct.
And so it's been, so that's 10. And then the Crockett Tavern is 8,125, and that is really hotel motel tax, so it's not really here. So Mayor, that brings you to 238 under your
Oh,
250.
good, and that's what we need to be. I think reasonable amount, but, you know, it's not gonna keep growing, especially with economics like that.
Well, yeah, I think we can monitor that every year, and we did. We stepped back and we adjusted instead of putting a cap on it. I think we can do.
As long as we're cognizant of it, I
Yes.
think it's fine.
Well, are you comfortable then with the approach of funding at the level that's in the proposed budget, asking those agencies that have not submitted financials to come back with financial before they get any funding? And then during the course of the year, we'll discuss the structure and governance of the diversity task force. All right. Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Okay, so that's the big blue notebook, which was the big homework we asked council to do this time. Beyond that, are there any other questions or concerns about the proposed budget that we should talk about and investigate further?
Yes. The car rebuild. I don't feel a bit comfortable with that. That car, 150,000 miles, the car's wore out, not, you know, and putting a transmission and that, and putting it out there for police work is a dangerous idea. Because you know yourself, and I do too, I've been here long enough to realize that if they pursue, they're going to pursue. And when a policeman sees you violating, they're going to pursue. With a blue light stopping or a speed to try to overtake you somewhere, you know. And I just think it would be hazardous to put that in the police category uniform. I recommend we leave that to the wayside.
I understand what you're saying, and what we were trying to do, you know, last year we talked about rebuilding some equipment. We tried to give you some options. If you feel more comfortable, there is adequate money in the budget to replace 7 patrol vehicles and not rebuild them. If you want to do that, I think that the police department would be happy, and I think that would be a reasonable thing if that's your direction.
You had
The money would be there to be able to fund 7 new vehicles, and we would just go ahead and order 7 instead of 5.
I like that idea.
That's in the budget also.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
that's right, mine.
Well, what about, can we not rebuild a car for other not the police. I was thinking about that also, when you're out here chasing somebody, you know, and going home on there, gonna take car to work. You know.
Yes.
Well, what about a service vehicle though? Can we not work on them?
Yeah, we can still try the experiment if you want to take one of those vehicles and estimate is $6,000 and use it for a staff function, administrative function, and see if that's viable. We would do that out of existing resources if that's what you want to do, to see how well it works. But I think you've got a valid concern. If you get high-speed chase, we want to make sure that the vehicle is in better shape than it might be.
But anyway, I think the 7 cars, I agree with that.
So,
I agree. Yeah, let's do that.
Let's give them 7 cars.
okay, so that doesn't make any change to the dollars in the budget. It's just a philosophical change that we will purchase 7 and not rebuild for patrol vehicles.
Well, they were getting it anyway, right?
Well, I had proposed to replace at least 5, take the money for the other 2, and if the experiment worked out, we would rebuild some instead of buying 2 new ones. We'll just buy 7 new ones if that's your direction.
That's good.
Same dollar.
Also, it is $6. I was gonna ask, I was looking at some police cars, and some of them do need paint because of rust problems and what have you. I thought maybe if we didn't do the refurbishment, we could take those dollars and put into repainting some of them. Would that work, or is that something?
I can go back and ask the police department and garage to assess whether they feel it would be better to replace 7 or to replace, for example, 6 and do some refurbishment.
Oh, I wouldn't want to take one.
No, let's don't take them off, but they need them. Those
Well,
cars,
let's replace the 7, let's do an assessment of the rest of the fleet and find out what it might take to do basic maintenance.
great idea,
And then we'll see what we can do for
great
you.
idea.
Good, Bob.
Hang in there.
What about janitorial service? We've talked about that for 3 years now. You're supposed to, remember, was going to
Yeah,
line up
we-
after the last year's budget, but you never did do anything about it.
That's right. It's still on my to-do list. It should have gotten done. It's not gotten done. We still need to go back and assess doing it in-house versus contract. And
Well, I think you agree, they don't do the best job in the world, you know?
And, yeah, I think the results we're getting are not what we want, but on their behalf, we did cut the budget back dramatically, so we cut their hours. But yeah, I think we need a better result, and we need to give you a report on that.
And I hope the person that you got in mind to put on overseeing and working with the department heads and seeing if things are going the way they should go, I hope that would be one of their duties to deal with their cleaning services.
So are you going to give more hours into the current one to see if it gets any better, or just how do you want to do that?
I think what I need to do first is to go back and examine the contract and what we're doing. And I want to first examine what we could do in-house. I think direct supervision might be able to get us some part-time people and do it better under our own direction, and then come back with some alternatives. But yeah, I think that additional hours is certainly something we'll have to consider.
Now, last year, you put in the budget a new position for sewer. Is that still in there or not in there?
Yes, it is in there. I've
So
not
we're
done
going to
it.
add that one plus three new positions?
Well, it's not added because it's already in there. It's just, we didn't get the person hired, so it's
So you
always
still
been
gonna hire
budgeted.
somebody?
So and I do expect to go back to the market and re-advertise the public works director.
Okay, now the litter person, do we really need a litter person? Somebody over litter? If you do, are you going to buy a litter truck and all that?
What
You're talking about?
the proposal is to get a certified officer, police officer that can work a crew from the jail, so there'd be trustees from the jail. The truck would be the fire unit 1 we're replacing, would shift over to the litter crew, so it would not be a new truck for the litter crew. It would come out of the existing fleet. We just repurpose that. So the new expense is materials and supplies for the prisoners to work, the new person to supervise and manage them, and then the operation of the truck that would be shifting over.
Because litter is a problem. I think it's a definite something we need to look at, but also, we have a bill that didn't go through legislature that I'm going to talk to Don about and talk to Steve about, to see if we can run it back through. It had problems because it mirrored the state law as far as littering, and not being able to find someone for littering and keeping the hearing in municipal court rather than in general sessions, which runs into overtime. So if we can address that again and try and work with both our legislators on that, and then the littering, I believe it's gonna help the looks of the community an awful lot, and we do need to do that.
And
Oh, I don't disagree with that, it's just the fact that we need to hire another policeman. I mean, do we not have somebody we can put on there, or do we not have enough people?
well, I mean, this is gonna be somebody who's full-time
Or is this-
monitoring the prison.
But it's
So
gonna be a policeman?
yes, it'll be a certified officer. That's part of the requirements for getting the prisoners out of jail. Someone who can
The
manage.
one since you're getting out of jail, it's not gonna cost anything, though.
That's correct.
So you're gonna get roughly 5, 6 people workforce for one salary.
For one salary, that's correct. And let me say too, I'm calling it a litter crew, but we hope to get a wider variety of work out of it. It will be a crew out there that can do a lot of things, and that's, weed eating, we've got we spent a lot of time going down Roll Widener and cleaning up the Pitts Road. That would have been a great thing for this crew to do. So it's not just picking up garbage, it's a lot of things where we can go out and get the things we don't have the people to do now for the price of one person.
You gonna make that?
Yeah, I think overall we'll come out way ahead.
Yeah.
And it will be things that you'll be able to see around the community that'll make an improvement.
You think anytime, what you're saying is we want to replace that vehicle of the fire department and use the one. You think it'll be a long drawn out thing before we can start using that vehicle by trying to find them a replacement?
It's, frankly, I've not looked at that, and I'm hoping we can move that pretty quick. But if we have to find something in the interim to get them some sort of crew cab or something, we'll find a way to get them around.
Yeah, we need to do that. You know, Marshtown used to be an all-working city. You know, and I'd like to see us work toward that goal. And I'm sure you would from everything you presented to us. But just the litter and everything, the way it's being handled there, it needs to be, we need to sit down and make some rules on it.
Yeah, that, I'm definitely going to be bringing that back to you here, probably mid to late summer.
Good. Yeah, this piles stuff out on the street, and time they leave, pile something else out. That's something to grow.
I like what you're talking about taking, certain areas each month and talking about them so that we're really on top of things. And then, like the litter you're talking about, that's referenced in the citizen survey and also in the benchmark. And so that way we'll really be, on schedule with everything.
If we can agree on what we're going to fund, that's the next thing I'm going to bring to you is a proposed calendar for the next year. And it's pretty ambitious in terms of the things I'm going to ask you to take up. And I think we can focus on things, make some decisions, and really make some progress in the next year for kind of get ourselves organized.
Great.
Guys, based upon that and looking through this book, I know you're as impressed as even more impressed than we were last year with the budget that Tony's put together and the progress we've made. And you always say there's a team helping you here to put this together. But incorporating the benchmark that came through TML and then also the citizen survey and everything, and bringing us from 1 million to 5 million there in 2.5 years. And we're able to give all of our employees in this budget a 2.5% increase, salary increase, which is phenomenal.
That's something we've been talking about ever since, I come into office to make sure the employees are better compensated. That's great.
And based upon all that, and Tony driving the ship here, I would like to recommend that we provide an additional 2.5% raise for Tony this year. And I asked Larry, and that would just be a difference of about $3,000 in a 2.5 and a 5% raise. So it'd be 2.5 with 2.5 on top. Everybody's getting 2.5. And I'd like for us to consider an additional 2.5 for support.
Okay, the other employees would not be getting that 2.5% raise if it wasn't him,
Exactly.
plus other things.
Is that $5 million, was that right in the paper, that's in the reserve?
It's right. It's fund balance of $5 million, is that correct?
Or are you
Yes.
saying in the general?
Is that general
fund?
General
fund
fund.
reserve?
Hey, see, I thought it said reserve in the paper, I was wondering how we got $5 million in a reserve.
Well, that's fund balance or reserve, it's kind of an interchangeable term, but fund balance is a technical term.
So nothing is obligated of that 5 million.
I believe that's undesignated
No,
fund
it's
balance.
undesignated, nothing's obligated.
Everything's undesignated.
I think from where you brought us, where we're at, I think that.
Now, Gene, we got on board, it was zero.
We didn't know.
We didn't have a meeting.
That's why I'm asking though. I was thinking the paper said it's reserve, and I was hoping it was, you know, that we had $5 million extra. Do we have anything in the reserve at all?
Well, we've got some designated, but that's generally contracts and payables and those sorts of things, is what things are designated for.
Yes.
But the 5 million is your rainy day fund, if you will.
That's what we've been looking for.
So if a tornado come through and destroyed half the town, we have $5 million.
That 5 million cash is, I mean,
We hope it misses Justin's.
What do you think about that?
I think we've been very fortunate, the Lord's blessed us, and it's all these times and go somewhere else, you know.
And that will continue to grow if these procedures he's put in that effect will continue on.
So you gonna put that in form of motion? That's-
I guess we can't vote here, so
No,
we just all
no,
agree.
We can agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Great, thank you, Mayor.
Everybody, is that good for you, Mayor?
That's good for me.
Okay.
Unanimous.
I just hope the city employees don't get mad, since they just get 2.5.
Well, they wouldn't get it.
If they do, we'll tell them that by his,
Well, they hadn't
by
had
his
that long.
moonlighting there, that we got them 2.5, and we felt like his extra efforts and input and everything deserved a little bit more.
Maybe they'll get something next year.
Well, I do think that we're in much better shape definitely we were 2 years ago. I look at some of the things that contributed to it, and I know that some of the benefits employees had that were taken away and reducing the payroll, but I think we also need to consider the taxpayer that's paying $120 more a year than he was last year on garbage fees, $83 more a year than he was before on sewer fees, $1.50 more than he was a couple of years ago on stormwater, and it comes to $204.50 that these people are paying. So it's a lot of things, it's a sacrifice also on the part of the taxpayers. as
Those
well.
are, some of those major ones are unfunded mandates, which the city has no control over.
Yeah, stormwater is up, but the point is taxpayers are also.
The point
sacrificing.
is, there's a reason for it. It's not a political reason, it's a legitimate reason.
I don't think I
Unfunded
implied
mandate.
that it was.
Unfunded
political.
mandates, but I'm implying, unfunded mandates are something the city has no control over, like stormwater.
Stormwater. is
Sanitary sewer.
Yeah.
Oh,
Just
you're
trying to
really
get
lucky too.
25.
What is it, $2 per resident?
Pardon?
$2 and in Chattanooga, what's
It's
in?
9, that's because of the EPA, maybe, because they didn't comply.
And we're trying to stay ahead of the EPA here. If we don't, they'll set the rate.
I was in total agreement with the $1.50 increase, so that we wouldn't have that problem. I just don't think you need to forget the taxpayers are sacrificing also.
Yeah, well,
A couple of things as far as the budget. All that interest on that stormwater, did we ever pay that back, Tony?
It's a 3-year plan. This is the second year of the 3, so we've got one more to go. Yes, we are making payments.
What about that, was there an mandate on, remember when we had the water overflows in the lake?
Mhm.
And we were supposed to take, have we done that?
We provided TDEC the report on the power supply. They wanted to see how we could provide redundant power. We've given them that report.
Or we want to, what we want to
We're
do?
waiting for them to tell us what they would like for us to do.
Either a generator or is there another, I don't know.
Yeah, there's a way we can get another feed into there that's a different path, so if we have a tree fall, it won't hit those lines. And that's what we recommended. We also did a review of a generator, and that's in there and priced out. And TDEC's not responded in terms of what they'd like to see us do.
When you bring another feed in, Tony, I know this is a total budget, but it's still from the same source, correct?
It's a different substation.
All right.
So like, you're saying like Appalachian or?
We already had 2 providers. We had MUS and I believe it was Appalachian. But the problem was that they ended up for a small segment going down on the same pole line. So this would be another, actually a third source for a different substation to come into the plant from a different direction. So that one tree couldn't take out those 2 power sources. That's what happened to us when the power went down, is a limb took out both MUS and Appalachian at the same time.
and,
that can happen again too.
Right, but, so, right now, TDEC's looking at it. What we have in place has been reviewed and approved by TDEC. It does have two sources. They're reviewing the report now, but I've not heard anything back from them.
We've had a problem here. I'm proud of the way Mr. Cox has handled it. We signed on with this energy company and offered them a few $1 million to save us energy. They come in, back around. It's been, what, 3 years, 4 years? Been a long time.
It's before I got elected, it's over 3 years.
It's over 3 years. And it was sitting there, null and void. Only got a hold of it, put it in action. I'd say right there, he deserved his raise because he got them to sign off, give them a certain amount, get out, and save us, what, $1.5 million?
That's right. We will have a little over $1 million at the wastewater plant to do some of the things that we need to do.
And that is going for the wastewater plant, that's
Yeah.
correct, to
Yeah.
take on that deal in Lakemore.
Yeah, as soon as we get the assessment back from Lamar done in terms of what the priorities are, what the cost may be, y'all will be able to make a decision in terms of where to go. But yeah,
And we've got 500,000 in their bond we just issued, goes toward it too, so
Right.
we'll have some funds to.
We're $1 million to spend out there, I'm sure.
Yeah,
But well,
Anyway, that's been laying there, and we were still obligated.
Well, we're still going to spend that amount, it's just that we're going to do it more proficiently and in a manner that we get the job done, whereas
Right.
with ESG, that wasn't happening. So is it a savings? Well, it's putting the money to use the way it should be put to use. And that's the critical thing there. We're still gonna spend it, it's just gonna be spent properly rather than the way ESG was happening. Is that not correct?
yeah, I think by making this change, we'll be more effective.
I think I ran on that, that was one of the things.
You can say,
Well, he's
done.
spending, and I brought that out, I think it's $4.1 million or something like that.
Yeah.
And I just felt like it was a waste there.
I think we're about to make some progress there.
And you're doing the salary study. which
Yes,
you-
salary study, assuming that's, you're comfortable with that, we'll go out and solicit quotes from providers and come back and let you know kind of how salaries stack up, how the pay plan, whether we're able to recruit and retain the people we need.
Well, you know, I'm good with this budget, I'm ready to bring it to council vote on it. I think you did a good job, and I'm good with it.
I agree.
I agree.
You did an excellent job.
I think we still need to go through it. I don't believe you can just.
Well, let's take, I guess let's see a show of hands, who's good with that as it is.
I am.
I am.
You still don't wanna go through it? Look
I've
at
been
some-
to it, it gives all kinds of time to go through it.
He put everybody on the screen out
You
there.
read every word in there.
It's not show-off time for me, Gene, I've read it.
It's not what?
You heard it.
You're smart at it, Bob, you know that?
You're a nice guy.
I am a nice
Lord-
guy.
The Lord loves you.
Thank you.
What else
I
do you
hope he
have to
loves
talk
you,
about,
buddy.
Gene?
Let's
What else do you have to
let's
talk
talk
about?
about our budget.
Excuse me?
What else do you have to talk about? What you
Well,
want?
The council seems like they're good to go, I'm out of here, folks. I'll get other places to go. Thanks.
Put it on their next agenda and we'll vote on
See
it.
you later, buddy.
Right.
Okay? Will do.
You go with it?
Yeah.
Put that raise, we'll.
Well, I'll be happy to do that, yes, sir. We'll make sure we find a way to get that done.
You got time to get through here.
Yes, sir.
Well, I just stop there.
What did you want to talk about?
Amazing, when you can't sit down and go over the line. Be sure to put that in the table, Bob, or get it right this time.
This time.
Is that what you talked about? I mean,
Well, you guys are already voted, we'll let it roll at that. If that's the way you want to do it, I think it's very irresponsible not to go through the budget thing. That's my opinion. That's your job as a city, as a
I'm
elected
not
city
saying, if
official.
you got your places marked, let's go through it.
I'm fine.
He's irresponsible. boy.
You are voted. Thank you, though.
Okay, folks, well then, our next meeting is June 5th, and it'll be on the agenda for first reading. We should be set then for public hearing and second reading on the 19th.
And that'll close it.
That should get it done.
We will have it in time frame.
That's correct. We'll get it done plenty of time without special meetings, so that, we should be in good shape. Oh, yes, move forward. That's on my list, I'm trying to get it scheduled, yes.
I had a lot of people that are gonna use it.
You had paused and.
I mean, I think you should go through a budget. I haven't read through that whole thing, I had some questions.
Listen,
I asked a lot of questions.
But you look through, you know, I mean, each one of them has what we've done, what we've accomplished, and what the goals are in the future, and, you know, those are the employees in each area, so, I mean, I did go. And we go back over there to, you know, we're gonna pay everything out by 2035, and, you know, what our debt is, the industrial parks and law, next year, we'll have $5 million, and be able to decide what to do with it.
Will you check and see about a bond on the industrial park? I think it's supposed to pay off.
I think this is the year, I think this is the year to make the last payment, and I'll confirm that, but I believe that's it. Mhm.
You got a minute to go back.
Yeah,
How you down there?
I will.
You got it for me.
He's playing so anyway.
Well, I don't know how much of that.
Right.
We'll listen to him for a minute anyway.
Yes, that's right. He's called, you're right. This year, and then paid off.
2013 is out. I mean, this year's it. And we'll have 5.7 million.
You just gonna tell us the time. You just, you want y'all.
Larry's gonna call, and we'll find out what you know.
Good job, son.
I appreciate you.
He's graduated 4:30, so.